Hi all, welcome to another Kingscrusher radio show. So it's Tuesday, it's 9:10. We're going to carry on the series, the best of the best chess games, according to chessgames.com, funny enough. This is the 1940s. So the first game I'd like to show you is Vasily Smyslov, who was one of our past world champions, of course, against Rudakovsky, played in the USSR Championship of 1945. So this is quite a notable and instructive game. Let's add live book and a kibitzer before we start this journey. Okay, so e4 from Smyslov, and we have a Sicilian defense from Rudakovsky. And actually, is there any bio on Rudakovsky? Let's quickly check. See, there is actually. He was awarded the Soviet Master of the Sports title in 1939, so a few years before this game. Okay, yeah, there's 42 of his games available at chessgames.com, so it's quite an enthusiastic player. Obviously, he's in the USSR Championship, which is one of the most prestigious championships going at the time. So anyway, yeah. So we have knight f3, e6, d4, an open Sicilian. Knight f6, knight c3, d6. Pretty standard stuff. It looks absolutely bog standard stuff so far. Yep. Actually, this is like f4 is the main move according to live book here. Queen c7. Now, quite often here, there's king h1, which looks like a prophylaxis move against that. The pitfalls of this diagonal. But there's also this other move, queen e1. This is being played quite a bit as well. Taking a risk for a moment longer. Okay, knight takes d4 was played, bishop takes. e5. Now with this e5, of course structurally that d5 looks like a weak square to try and exploit at some point. For the moment it looks safe enough. It looks as though black can cover that weakness with bishop e6 later, and this runs with tempo, so is it such a big deal, this d5 weakness? Bishop drops back, bishop e6. But here, basically in this position, quite a forcing move is played by white. If you didn't catch the name, it's Rudakovsky. Rudakovsky. I'll paste the name in the chat. Yeah. Okay. So Rudakovsky is playing black. So white plays a forcing move, f5. Now, yeah, the bishop, if it goes back, it can actually deploy, you'd think. Maybe bishop c6 later. Maybe that's a good idea, actually. Because any g4, I think this is a bit risky. Bishop c6 or h6, or both h6 and bishop c6. This could be a bit of a risky venture. Because to dislodge the d5 knight, I think it's not in time. Bishop c6 is not in time. So actually, yeah, bishop d7 seems plausible here, potentially. It seems plausible. But in the game we see bishop c4. Now just fundamentally, remember that's the kind of, that was going to guard the d5 structural weakness. And white now is basically in the process of removing two key defenders, because there's this other defender here of d5, and he actually takes that on c4, and although black appears to be threatening this, there's an elegant reply which not only defends the pawn but also threatens to get rid of this other key defender, and we're left with a strategically very bad position now, with this big knight coming to d5, and it's difficult for black to actually do anything about this. This position looks very unpleasant. We have rook fe8, which might not be the most accurate. Maybe it was kind of it was maybe very important to at least put some pressure on the C file with this. This might have been more stubborn. Okay, but rook f8, white just snaps off f6 and gets that knight now to d5. Not worrying actually about c2 here. If queen takes c2, rook f2, let's say here, we can kick the queen. And this sort of position, actually we can kick the queen again. And kick the queen again away from this pin. And basically I think actually white can end up winning the exchange if nothing else. So yeah, it's a dangerous position. If the queen goes back there, then there's other nasty stuff coming. Maybe this with the idea of taking. So anyway, so in a nutshell, queen takes c2 wasn't played. We actually see this is like white's threat lurking. It's addressed with bishop d8. And now this pawn actually is protected with c3. b5, and the queen is kicked with b3. This knight's kind of a monster knight. It's a fantastic outpost knight. So that's why such a game is very instructive, because it's just a major concept here that we've got this outpost knight on d5 really reducing black's potential counterplay. So it's something we need to really aim for as white in these structures. Check, king h1, rook c8. Now the rook lift, again this is making use of that fantastic knight. So introducing some great possibilities. Now after king h8, f6 is played. Yeah, this is really interesting. Now black took with the g pawn. If maybe taking this is more stubborn actually, but white is better off the takes, and queen h4 more than better. This is really dangerous, this position. Really dangerous. See this? Because it's not just the double pawns, it's that h7 weakness. I think white's basically winning this by force in this kind of continuation. It's horrible for black, but it's not too dissimilar to the game anyway. So g takes might be technically worse than bishop takes. Okay, so we have queen h4, and the threat now, well there's two threats. The one main one is the gang up on h7 to threaten mate. The other one is of course knight takes f6, which also does threaten mate with the knight and queen. Black played now rook g8. Now after knight takes f6, there's not too many options for black really, because queen takes h7 is threatened. If black takes on f6, this is really not good after check. This didn't happen. This position, well actually it's rather similar to the game anyway. So let's just go into the game one, which is rook g7, and now rook g3 was played here. And with this there's actually a nifty idea. I wonder if you can spot the key threat. Now if I gave a bad move for black, I wonder if you can spot the key threat. So this didn't happen. What would you play with white in this position? White played for 100 points. This didn't happen. But can you see what the threat is here? White's playing. Anyone? Yeah, some of you got it, yeah. White will be threatening this remarkable move. Queen takes h7 check, because of this neat checkmate, exploiting the fact that the rook is interrupted by the bishop. That's checkmate. Yeah, that's the threat. So black took on f6, But after queen takes f6, there's not too many moves here. But now, in this position, it's funny, this position. Can you see what white plays here? White play, this is really massive position for white. Basically, you know, he's converted, he's cashed out his knight outpost, hasn't he, for this tactical pin. The tactical pin is very, very concrete, though. I mean, well, when I say concrete, it's immobility, massive immobility of black's position. Both rooks are stuck, but white needs to add more pressure here. So what key move would you play in this position? Anyone? I think there might actually be an urgency for this move here. Let me just check something. This wasn't played. Yeah. Well, it's still good for white anyway, even if h3 is played. Actually, it's very strong. h3 is actually not such a bad move. Actually, I was only given that as a token move. Actually, it is one of the better moves. I think even a3 is probably okay. No, but there's a really strong move here, which is just getting the last major piece into play. Yeah, I'm going to tell you, I'm hoping most of you got this simple and strong move. Any more time needed? White's playing this position. Okay. Just check if my chat's still working. It was rook d1 actually. Rook d1. Basically, yeah, there's unbearable pressure on d6. Yeah. Black plays d5. And now just rook takes g7, rook takes g7, rook takes d5, hits the queen, and there's a lovely rook d8 after. So that's absolutely winning. So yeah, the game seemed to be in it was a terrible thing that happened to black just with the d5 square. But this is a major consideration about these structures. I personally, apparently this game has been referenced by Jeremy Silman in Reassess Your Chess, which may have caused its immense popularity. But for me personally, a knight on d5 is also, there's a great game in Most Instructive Games of Chess by Chernev with a knight on d5 as well. It's a very, very important theme to know about. But here, yeah, it was kind of converted into a tactical pin, which was winning in any case. It's just absolutely winning this position. If queen here, you know, rook d8, just winning the queen. Yeah. Okay, so let's go on to the next game I wanted to show you tonight. Okay, so that was Spinslov against it. Now Denker against Botvinnik. This is a classic game in this golden age of radio. This is a radio match played in 1945. Funny enough, it's really for me a fascinating context to this game, this radio match of 1945. So Arnold Denker was playing against Botvinnik, who was playing black. Let's actually take it from black's perspective. So yeah, 1945, yes, close to World War II, right? So this is just after World War II, basically, I believe, and it was a kind of kind of assessment if the USSR was still good at chess, and actually that it appears that they were quite good at chess. So this was the board 1 encounter. So d4, d5 from Botvinnik, c4, e6, knight c3. Now this Slav triangle, c6, knight f3, knight f6. In Botvinnik we can see kind of traits of Kasparov. He had very, very detailed, opening preparation, which obviously Kasparov did as well. So some traits, because it's no coincidence, I believe. The Soviet School of Chess, Botvinnik's Soviet School of Chess, he would take each student and maximize their strengths and minimize their weaknesses. But this whole system, was to become the subject of great theoretical scrutiny. Bishop g5, d takes c4. In one respect, you might argue, just on general principles, that this bishop has been left kind of tied in, and black's been a bit greedy here, right? Isn't it principle breaking? But this is not a Queen's Gambit accepted or anything. And although it might appear principle breaking, this is the whole thing about research into whole opening systems, which Botvinnik carried out. After e4, it seems to be the dangerous threat of e5, as well as taking the pawn. But this is ignored. This e5, in fact, black just clings onto the pawn, allowing e5, because now there's h6, bishop h4, and now g5, breaking that relative pin. But white plays knight takes g5. This is the critical test here, I believe. Well, actually, it's not. Actually, there has been some games played with bishop g3. That's interesting as well. But the thing is, with this position, black seems quite comfortable with that nice d5 square. It's not that he's just won a pawn. It's the light squares have been compromised. If, for instance, to show that, if knight takes d5, I mean black's doing extremely well. Let's add a bit to here. Yeah, I mean, maybe even just c takes, and it's just a clear pawn up, or even queen takes is okay, but maybe c takes is the easiest. It's so yeah, this position here, there's been a few games from it. Knight d2. Maybe the idea is like h4 to try and question this whole construction over here. So anyway, I think this is thought of as the most critical test. Knight takes g5. Yeah, there's been loads and loads of games from this position. hg, bishop takes. Knight bd7. E takes. Bishop b7. Yeah, because black's idea is to castle queenside here. We have bishop e2, and this is not so trendy nowadays, bishop e2. Usually players with white just play g3 very routinely. There's over 600 games with g3. This is what usually happens. c5, d5, very, very sharp line, very, very sharp. And there's even been hundreds of games from this position. Hundreds. And in fact, between very, very strong opponents sometimes as well. There's an Ivanchuk Immortal in this line, for example. But anyway, with a queen sack, which is worth checking out. But anyway, at the time of this game, Arnold Denker is like improvising, and it does seem like a sensible move to play bishop e2. This hasn't been used much today. There's only like 20 games in the ChessBase live book for bishop e2. It does mean that this bishop's kind of amplified, potentially across the diagonal. We have queen b6 putting pressure on d4. White castles, black castles queenside. Now a4, it looks intuitively a good idea. Try and open up the lines. b4, knight e4. Now c5, which opens up the bishop, and you can see that clearly there's a file here, there's a road here just waiting on the g file as well. So this is quite a dangerous bishop in this position. Already this is pretty dangerous. If knight g3, this looks very passive. White could even play, black could even play knight e5 here. That's using that pin, and then maybe queen c6 and the knight's in place against the f3 square. This is starting to look nasty. But white plays actually queen b1. Then we have queen c7 threatening our mate in 1, which clearly needs to be addressed. And in fact, white ends up playing now this passive looking move, knight g. Oh, sorry. White ends up, after queen c7, knight g3, yeah, this passive looking move. An alternative, maybe h4, is still no good. If h4 is played, this is just black's building up the pressure here with bishop h6. This is just not very nice. Just as an example, it's just horrible. Knight takes f6 will protect f7, and then this, and we got threats like this and this. It's just totally horrible. So basically knight g3 was played, and we have c takes d4. White's center is collapsing here. White may have been banking on this because to try and expose the c file, and he plays bishop takes c4, but black plays this threatening mate again. That's protected, but now a really vicious move is played by black, which the engines really like as well. A really clinical move in this position. Can you see what black plays? Black's play. If I give you not 5 seconds, 20 seconds, what would you play here with black? Any ideas? Alright, now one of you mentioned yeah, very dangerous looking move, rook takes h2. I'm not sure this works. White can take that. I'm not sure there's a follow-up to that actually. It's like bishop d6 to try and pin and stuff. One can do various things, it seems, including even this, to stop rook h8. No, that's not the idea, but it's a good idea though. The idea is here, is played d3. It opens up this potentially dangerous diagonal for this bishop. We have queen c1. Various things do not seem to be working too well here. Bishop e3, we just play this anyway. Okay, so queen e1 will run, queen c1 will go on with the game. We have the check, bishop e3, we have this position anyway. No, we don't have bishop e3, we have king h1 in the game. Bishop e3 doesn't work too well here. Do you know what black could play on bishop e3? This didn't happen in the game. White played king h1, but on bishop e3, can you see black's play here? This is a variation of the game where there's a crushing move here. I'll show you. The crushing idea would be d2, so after queen takes, knight e5 with the discovered attack on the queen, queen f2, but now the point would be knight g4, trying to slice open this diagonal, forking the queen and bishop. So if takes, for example, bang, bishop takes e3, and we're gonna win the queen. End of game. King h1 will be forced basically, and then we just win the queen. So that's the kind of viciousness associated with, in this position, bishop e3. Yeah, d2 is a bone-crushing move. It's a bone-crushing ideas based on these two, this diagonal. So in the game we see actually king h1, and now queen d6 just threatens queen takes g3, as well as a more subtle threat which is shown in the game continuation, because queen f4 was played, and black to play here. Black to play. I wonder if you can find the move. Give you 20 seconds. Black to play here. Yeah. Now, I think we've got to be on red alert when escape squares are taken from the king. We've taken one key escape square here. There's a wonderful rook sacrifice is played, because after takes, see that escape square? It means rook h8 check. The king has nowhere to run here, and the bishop's overloaded. If bishop h4, we just take the queen. Now, if that's hopeless, I think, because rook takes here, we've got that pin. So rook takes g5 check, exploiting the pin. We're just going to take the queen. So there's not too many options. Queen h4 was played. Black snapped up the queen, and now pounced with queen f4, and awkwardly this bishop is also not in great shape for being protected. White resigned here, but if king h3, there's actually a double attack on both bishops. So actually if king h3, well, we can just take this bishop simply, and that's winning. I expect in this position many things are winning, but the easiest is just take this bishop. There's no problem now on the c file, but it didn't come to that. White resigned here after queen f4. This game was it is kind of an iconic game to me, because it shows well, first of all, it demonstrated that the USSR had been working on their chess a bit during World War II. Maybe that's a bit strange, but yeah. They had a few tournaments at least on the peripheries of the war, and they had loads of grandmasters, basically grandmaster at the time, strength players. But Botvinnik showed great preparation in this game. He'd worked out whole systems. So this was Soviet USSR domination of chess back in 1945. So they won that match quite convincingly. So the whole team match, I'll give you a link to the team match at chessgamescom. Documents all the board scores. You might want to check this out. Here's the link. So Smyslov 2 out of 2. Botvinnik got 2 out of 2. He also won the other game against Denker. We could have a quick look at that as well, actually. Just a brief look at the other game, actually. shall we? It's actually not. It wasn't too long. I've already given a spoiler alert. So each player on this match played 2 games. As you can see, 2 games. And as white against Denka, this was the game with white. So d4, d5, Botvinnik playing white, knight f3, knight f6. We do have a Slav, but in exchange, Slav with bishop f4. And annoyingly, you know, white's got a pretty simple to play position, maybe annoyingly for black. It's a pretty solid way of playing against the Slav, very solid. Nice advantage here from the opening. Now instead of taking on e4, white pins that knight and plays knight d2, so this is even in many ways better. And black's in such an awkward state here. Yeah, he's losing a piece, nearly. He's got queen f5, but this is not that good because the bishop d6. Yeah, so if takes, then we've got this fork. So yeah, this is pretty critical for black already. e3, things are getting tactical a little bit. Knight takes e3, and black is basically busted in just, you know, less than 20 moves. This I know it's not very good. He has to play on. He gave up his queen, but it's pretty lost. Yeah, this isn't the famous game of the two. This is the less famous game of the two. So I'm not going to give much commentary here. I'm just going to show you. Yeah, white's just winning 30 moves, queen d2 check. But yeah, they trounced USA overall in this match. So anyway, that was 1945, back in 1945. Okay, I hope you got something from the 2 main games featured tonight, and have a good week. See you next week. Okay, thanks very much. Cheers then.